The Volari refugee fleet drifted through the outer reach like scattered leaves on a dark ocean. 17 ships, most of them converted cargo haulers and mining vessels, held the last 23,000 survivors of a world that no longer existed. Their home planet, Velar Prime, had been reduced to molten slag 3 months earlier when the Kravik Dominion decided the system's rare mineral deposits were more valuable than the lives inhabiting it. Commander Thesha stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Wandering Hope, staring at the tactical display with hollow eyes. Her people had been running ever since the bombardment. They had jumped from system to system, always one step ahead of the Kravik pursuit fleets, burning through fuel reserves they could not replace and eating rations that grew thinner by the day. "Commander, we have a problem," her sensor officer said, his voice cracking with exhaustion. The young Volari's blue-gray skin had taken on a sickly pale shade, and his hands trembled as they moved across the controls. Thesha did not need to ask what kind of problem. She could read it in his posture, in the way his twin antennae drooped against his skull. "How many?" 8 ships. Kravik battle cruisers. They just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They are moving to intercept. He paused, swallowing hard. They will be in weapons range in 40 minutes. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Volari had no warships. They had no weapons beyond a few small defensive turrets meant for asteroid mining. Against 8 Kravik battle cruisers, they might as well throw stones at a thunderstorm. Thesha felt the weight of 23,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. She had promised them safety. She had promised them a new home. She had promised them hope. Now, she would watch them die or be dragged into slavery, which was often worse than death in Kravik hands. "Send a distress signal on all frequencies," she said quietly. "Maybe someone will hear it. Maybe someone will care." Her communications officer nodded and began transmitting. The message went out across the void, a desperate plea in 15 different galactic languages. "Help us. Please. We are refugees. We have nowhere to go. Our children are dying. Please help us." No one answered. The Kravik fleet closed in like predators circling wounded prey. Thesha watched their approach on the tactical screen, feeling time slip through her fingers like sand. 30 minutes. 20 minutes. 10. Then, something impossible happened. A new contact appeared on the sensors, dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly between the Volari fleet and the approaching Kravik ships. It was a single vessel, smaller than the Kravik cruisers but larger than any Volari ship. Its hull was dark gray, marked with white lettering and symbols no one on the bridge recognized. "What is that?" Thesha demanded. Her sensor officer worked frantically at his console, pulling up what little data their systems could gather. Unknown design. Unknown energy signature. Unknown origin. Wait, he looked up, his antenna standing straight with surprise. "Commander, I am reading weapon systems. Multiple railgun emplacements. Missile batteries. Energy shields. This is a warship." "Whose warship?" "I do not know. The markings are not in any database I can access. But they are hailing us." Thesha straightened, smoothing her worn uniform with shaking hands. "Put them through." The main view screen flickered, and a face appeared that Thesha had never seen before. It belonged to a species not in any of the standard galactic databases. The being had smooth skin the color of pale sand, dark hair cut short, and 2 eyes set forward in its skull like a predator. It wore a dark blue uniform with insignia Thesha did not recognize. "This is Captain John Miller of the USS Dauntless, Earth Defense Fleet," the being said in flawless galactic standard. Its voice was calm, almost gentle, but there was steel underneath. "We received your distress call. Are you in need of assistance?" Thesha opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "You are from Earth?" "That's correct." "Earth." Thesha searched her memory. She had heard the name before, somewhere in the peripheral data logs. A minor species. Barely spacefaring. Located in some backwater arm of the galaxy that most civilizations ignored. What was one of their ships doing out here, thousands of light years from their home system? The Kravik are coming, she said, abandoning protocol in favor of desperate honesty. They will be in weapons range in less than 5 minutes. They have 8 battle cruisers. You need to run. You need to save yourself. Captain Miller's expression did not change. Ma'am, with respect, we did not come all this way to run. How many refugees are you carrying? 23,000. Mostly civilians. Children. Elderly. We have no weapons. We cannot fight. Then you won't have to. Miller turned his head slightly, speaking to someone off-screen. Tactical, battle stations. Spin up the railguns and load tubes 1 through 8. Communications, send a message to the Kravik fleet on their military frequencies. Thesha watched, unable to believe what she was hearing. One ship. One small ship from a species no one had ever heard of, facing down 8 Kravik battle cruisers. On her tactical display, the Kravik fleet continued its advance, and the human ship held its position, placing itself directly in their path like a shield. The Kravik fleet commander, Warlord Zakros, sat in his command throne aboard the battlecruiser Crimson Fong and watched the tactical display with growing irritation. The Valari refugees had been running for months, and he had pursued them across 7 systems with the patience of a hunter who knew his prey would eventually exhaust itself. Now, finally, they were trapped. No fuel. No weapons. No hope. But there was a problem. A small, insignificant problem that stood between him and his prize. What is that ship? Zakros demanded, his red scales flaring with annoyance. The Kravik were a warrior species, bred for conquest and domination. They did not appreciate obstacles. His tactical officer studied the sensors, his clawed hands moving across the controls. Unknown class, Warlord. The design does not match any civilization in our database. It appears to be heavily armed for its size, but it is still only 1 vessel against our 8. Zakros leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. Hail them. Tell them to move aside or be destroyed. The communication went out, and moments later, a response came back. The face that appeared on the view screen belonged to a species Zakros had never encountered. Smooth skin. Blunt teeth visible when it spoke. Small frame by Kravik standards. Weak looking. This is Captain John Miller of the USS Dauntless, the creature said. You need to turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately. Zakros felt his jaw open in what might have been laughter or disbelief. You dare give me orders? I am Warlord Zakros of the Kravik Dominion. Those refugees behind you are mine by right of conquest. Their world burned because they refused to submit. Now they will serve or die. Move your ship, or you will share their fate. The human captain's expression did not change. There was no fear in those strange forward-facing eyes. No hesitation. Only a calm certainty that Zakros found deeply unsettling. I'm going to say this once more, Warlord, Miller said. Turn your fleet around. Leave this system. These people are under our protection now. Your protection? Zakros felt his anger rising. Who are you? What pathetic corner of the galaxy do you crawl from? We're from Earth. And we don't abandon refugees to slavers. Earth. Zakros searched his memory banks and found almost nothing. A minor species. Pre-industrial until recently. No significant military presence. No territorial claims. Nothing that should concern a Kravik warlord. You are outnumbered 8-1, Zakros said slowly, as if explaining reality to a child. Your ship, whatever it is, cannot stand against my fleet. I will give you one chance to withdraw. After that, I will reduce your vessel to debris and take what is mine. The human captain was quiet for a moment, and then he did something unexpected. He smiled. It was not a friendly expression. It reminded Zakros of the way a predator might bare its teeth before striking. "We've heard that before," Miller said. "It never works out the way you think it will." The communication cut off. Zakros sat in his throne, feeling something he had not experienced in years. Uncertainty. This human was either suicidally brave or hiding something. The Kravik did not become the dominant military power in 3 sectors by underestimating opponents, but neither did they back down from challenges. "All ships, advance," Zakros ordered. "Battle formation. Charge weapons. If that human ship does not move, destroy it. Then we take the Valari." The Kravik fleet moved forward, 8 massive warships bristling with plasma cannons and missile launchers. They had conquered dozens of species. They had burned worlds. They had never lost a battle against a single opponent. Aboard the Wandering Hope, Commander Thesha watched the human ship hold its position. She wanted to scream at them to run, to save themselves, but her voice would not come. The Kravik fleet was closing to weapons range. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10. And then the human ship opened fire. What happened next would be talked about in refugee camps and military academies for years to come. The USS Dauntless did not fire plasma or energy weapons like most galactic civilizations. It fired solid projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by electromagnetic rails. Kinetic weapons. Ancient technology by galactic standards, considered obsolete and inefficient. But no one had ever seen kinetic weapons fired with such precision, such speed, such devastating effect. The first railgun slug hit the lead Kravik battlecruiser directly on its forward shield emitter. The shield collapsed instantly under the kinetic impact, and the projectile continued through 3 meters of armor plating before detonating its explosive core deep inside the ship's reactor section. The battlecruiser broke apart in a brilliant flash of light. 7 seconds later, the second and third cruisers suffered the same fate. The Kravik fleet scattered, firing wildly as they tried to understand what was happening. Their plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against the Dauntless shields, which seemed to absorb energy weapons with contemptuous ease. Meanwhile, the human ship continued firing, each shot placed with surgical precision, targeting shield generators, weapons arrays, and engine cores. Warlord Zakros watched 3 more of his ships die in as many minutes. His confident advance had become a massacre. The human vessel moved through space with impossible grace, evading incoming fire while its weapons spoke with cold, mechanical efficiency. "Retreat!" Zakros roared. "All ships, emergency jump. Get us out of here." The 2 surviving Kravik battlecruisers turned and fled, their engines burning at maximum power as they prepared to jump to hyperspace. The Dauntless did not pursue. It simply held position between the Valari fleet and the now empty space where the Kravik had been. On the bridge of the Wandering Hope, no one spoke. No one breathed. They had just watched a single human warship destroy 6 Kravik battlecruisers and send 2 more running like frightened children. Commander Thesha's communication console beeped. Captain Miller's face appeared again, still calm, still steady. "The immediate threat has been neutralized," he said. "We'll escort you to the nearest safe system. Do your ships need medical supplies or fuel?" Thesha found her voice. "Who are you people?" Miller's expression softened slightly. "Just humans, Commander. Just humans who believe that refugees deserve protection, not predation. Now, about those supplies." The Valari fleet limped through hyperspace with the USS Dauntless running escort at their flank. Commander Thesha had not slept in 36 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kravik battlecruisers exploding in silent fury, torn apart by weapons that should not have been so effective. She saw that human captain's face, calm as still water, offering medical supplies and fuel as if he had not just rewritten the tactical assumptions of half the galaxy. Her communication officer approached hesitantly. "Commander, Captain Miller is requesting permission to come aboard. He says he wants to discuss our situation in person." Thesha straightened in her chair, suddenly aware of how worn and dirty her uniform had become. The Wandering Hope was a mining vessel pressed into service as a refugee carrier. Its corridors smelled of recycled air and desperation. Its walls were scratched and dented. What would these humans think when they saw how far the Valari had fallen? "Grant permission," she said quietly. "Prepare the main docking port." 20 minutes later, Commander Thesha stood in the docking bay as the human shuttle sealed itself against the airlock. The bay was crowded with curious Valari who had heard the rumors and wanted to see the beings who had saved them. Children pressed against the railings. Elderly refugees whispered prayers. Everyone waited. The airlock hissed open, and Captain John Miller stepped through, followed by 2 other humans in similar dark blue uniforms. They were all smaller than Thesha had expected, shorter than most Valari, with none of the physical bulk that characterized warrior species like the Kravik or the armored strength of the Thandniks. They looked fragile, almost delicate. But Thesha had seen what their weapons could do. She had watched their ship dance through battle like a predator playing with prey. Appearances, she was learning, meant nothing. Miller stopped in front of her and offered a gesture she did not recognize, extending his hand forward. "Commander Thesha. It's an honor to meet you in person." One of the other humans, a woman with dark skin and kind eyes, leaned close to Miller and whispered something. He nodded and lowered his hand. "My apologies," Miller said. "We're still learning the customs of other species." "I meant no offense." Thesha felt something warm unfold in her chest. These powerful beings, who had just destroyed 6 warships without breaking formation, were apologizing for not knowing her people's greeting customs. "No offense was taken, Captain. You saved 23,000 lives today. I do not have words sufficient to express our gratitude." Miller's expression remained serious. "You don't need to thank us for doing what's right. But we do need to talk about your situation. You're refugees with no home system, limited supplies, and a Kravik dominion that's going to be very interested in what happened here. We need to figure out what comes next." Thesha gestured toward the corridor leading to her small office, and Miller followed, leaving his escorts to stand awkwardly among the crowd of staring Valari. As they walked, Thesha noticed the human captain observing everything with those sharp predator's eyes. He saw the children sleeping in converted cargo bays. He saw the medical station overflowing with sick and injured. He saw the strain and exhaustion on every face they passed. In her office, such as it was, Thesha offered Miller the only other chair. "What I do not understand, Captain, is why you are here at all. Earth is thousands of light years from this sector. Our databases barely acknowledge your existence. How did you even receive our distress call?" Miller settled into the chair, which was slightly too large for his frame. "We've been exploring beyond our borders for the past 2 years, establishing listening posts and observation stations. Part of our mission is to monitor for distress signals. When we heard yours, we diverted immediately." 2 years, Thesha repeated. "Captain, forgive my bluntness, but the galactic records suggest your species only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. How do you have warships that can destroy Kravik battle cruisers? How do you have technology that our sensors cannot fully analyze?" Miller was quiet for a moment, and Thesha saw something shift behind his eyes. A calculation. A decision being made about how much truth to share. "Commander, can I be frank with you? Please." Humanity spent most of its history fighting itself. We had thousands of years of war, of weapons development, of tactical innovation driven by necessity and survival. When we finally reached space, we didn't stop preparing for conflict. We just started preparing for bigger threats. He leaned forward slightly. "The galaxy sees us as young and inexperienced. And maybe we are, in some ways. But we're also very, very good at one thing that most peaceful civilizations have forgotten. What is that? We know how to fight. Not just with weapons, but with strategy, adaptation, and a fundamental unwillingness to accept defeat. The Kravik have been dominant for so long that they've become predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. But humans learned a long time ago that sometimes the smaller, smarter fighter wins. Thesha absorbed this, fitting pieces together in her mind. Your ship. The railguns. Those are primitive kinetic weapons, are they not? Most species abandoned such technology millennia ago. Most species did, Miller agreed. But we refined them. We made them faster, more accurate, more devastating. And because no one uses them anymore, no one designs shields to stop them. Energy shields are optimized for plasma and particle beams. A solid slug moving at a significant fraction of light speed? He shrugged. It punches right through. It made a terrible kind of sense. Humanity had taken old, discarded technology and weaponized it in ways the galaxy had forgotten were possible. They had turned their inexperience into an advantage, approaching problems from angles that established civilizations no longer considered. What happens now? Thesha asked. The Kravik Dominion will not forget this. They will hunt us. They will hunt you. Miller's expression hardened. Let them try. In the meantime, we're going to get your people somewhere safe. There's a colony system in the Tertian sector that's been offering refuge to displaced populations. It's neutral territory, protected by the Galactic Council. We'll escort you there, make sure you have supplies and support. And then humanity is going to have a very serious conversation with the Kravik Dominion about their slaving operations and their habit of burning civilian worlds. Miller stood, and despite his smaller stature, he suddenly seemed much larger. We're new to this galactic community, Commander. We don't have a seat on the Council. We don't have established alliances or trade agreements. But we have principles, and one of them is this: we will not stand by while the strong prey on the weak. Thesha stood as well, feeling something she had not felt since Velar Prime burned. Hope. Real, tangible hope. Captain Miller, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. The human smiled, and this time it was warm and genuine. Then don't repay it. Pay it forward. When you're settled and strong again, help the next group of refugees who need it. That's how we build something better than what we have now. As Captain Miller left her office and returned to his shuttle, Thesha watched through the viewport as the USS Dauntless kept pace with her limping fleet. One small ship. One species that the galaxy had dismissed as insignificant. She wondered how many other civilizations were about to make the same mistake the Kravik had made. She wondered what would happen when humanity truly stepped onto the galactic stage. And deep down, in a place she barely admitted to herself, she felt grateful that when the humans had arrived, they had come as protectors rather than conquerors. Because a species that could turn ancient weapons into instruments of such precise destruction